Okay, so we want to bring in Mark Neveau. He is a former Fremont Fire Battalion chief. Obviously, in your firefighting career, you've had to respond to fires such as this. I want to focus on the fact that this was a distribution line. That's got to add another level of complexity here. Absolutely. Major line, because it's going down a major intersection, feeding all those businesses and homes. So that's a good-sized line under a lot of pressure. Normally, the pressure that comes into our houses and businesses is like a quarter of a PSI. These are probably in the hundreds. So you can see why the flames and the heat production, something like this, they did a nice job making sure this did not get worse.
This fire started, just after 1:15. It was well over 2 hours later until PG&E crews were able to cap this leak and shut off the flow of natural gas. Obviously, the big question everyone's wondering, what are the challenges? Why does it take so long to stop the flow?
Part of that is a joint decision. In that incident command, they're talking amongst the PG&E representatives, they're talking with Public Works, they're talking about building department, the fire department. What is the best strategy in shutting down this gas leak? What they made a determination was, let's not go after a valve, but let's pinch off on each end of that leak. You saw them above it and below it, and they capped it there, which allowed that gas to shut off, versus going to find a valve or something of that nature. Now, that might have been expediency. They could get to that quicker than anything else. Or the other side is that may reduce the amount of gas line that's shut down. Because sometimes the valves are farther out, which is, they shut that down, it's going to shut down a larger geographic area. More businesses, more homes without gas.
I was talking to someone who was just driving along Geary, and he saw a fire, and in this day and age thought, I'm going to call 911 and then I'm going to record it, right? And at first he thought, okay, this looks like maybe a tree caught on fire. And then he said that because of the intensity of the flames, he grew more concerned, and he thought, this may be, in fact, natural gas. And he decided he would get out of there as quickly as he could. And it just sort of strikes me when you saw the pictures that this did not look like a typical sort of fire, and that you really had this natural gas that was just feeding it continuously.
Absolutely, under high pressure.
Yeah.
But you could see that the flames were in a constant location.
Sure.
They jumped a little bit, but natural gas fires like that, you can see that that flame production is going to be in a specified area. If it's not growing, that means, okay, we're doing the right thing. It's feeding it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put water on the buildings to make sure that the radiant heat from those flames doesn't spread to the buildings.
Sure.
But we've got enough water. Now, this operation, while they're waiting for PG&E to shut down that line, is still very dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if the pipe ruptures more because it's weakened from the heat, what about the people working in the holes trying to dig if something happens to them?
I'll tell you, to that point, I was watching those crews working live, digging those holes on either end of this line, and just thinking to myself, just being quite concerned about the possibility of that leak, or whatever this rupture is in the pipe, spreading and them being injured in some way. That was a real possibility?
Your read is absolutely right on, because while they're digging, that gas is coming out of that line. And so what's happening, basically, it is so rich, it's not burning. And they know that, meaning there's so much gas. But you can see that they not only have they marked it off, but they've got fire extinguishers next to them when they're starting to do that work. PG&E's taken some hits as far as what's gone on recently in the wildfires. But I'll tell you, the people, I call them the ground troops, that come out and do this type of emergency work are fantastic. In terms of restoration during disasters, the power workers across the country, phenomenal.
Yeah, there were just so many variables here. But I do want to also talk a little bit not only about the challenging effort to try to shut off the gas, but also what led to this in the first place. And it does not appear that it had anything really to do with PG&E, except for that it was their line, but it was subcontractors. From fire officials, we learned that they were installing some sort of fiber optic lines there. Talk with us a little bit about that process. Obviously, you've got to get a permit, and you are to let officials know this is where I'm digging, and you want to make sure that you're not digging anywhere close to a natural gas pipeline.
Absolutely. And before they dig, they mark that line. They'll let, but the system's not perfect. And, you try and mark and determine where all those lines are underneath all the streets across the Bay Area and across the state of California. But sometimes you miss one. Or we're making an assumption that the contractor actually hit a line. They could have been digging above that line, and that line could have been weakened or something for whatever nature. We don't know.
Okay.
We just know that subcontractors were in that area. Okay.
Yes.
Work was going on.
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't the backhoe itself directly rupturing that distribution line, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It could have been sort of a trickle-down effect.
Absolutely. We won't know that until they actually get in there and take a look at it.
Yeah, that's really a fair point for you to make there. And we're watching live pictures here as PG&E crews deal with, obviously, the aftermath of today's natural gas line explosion and the resulting fire that continued to burn for more than 2 hours. A total of 5 buildings damaged here.
Mark, though, when we look at these pictures, sort of what are they doing and what's the next step in all of this? Because obviously, from PG&E standpoint, they want to get that line secure and they want to restore service to as many people in that area that have been affected as quickly and as safely as possible.
Absolutely, Heather. So the gas company's trying to do restoration to, like you said, businesses and residents. The fire department's recovering their equipment, trying to get people back into operation. But this is going to be a long, drawn-out recovery portion. You know, you saw earlier that the firefighters were using aerial water lines to flow water from the top of the ladders down. Now you'll see that they've shut those down, they've brought the ladders down, and they actually have crews inside. They're using hose lines inside the building, trying to extinguish that part of the building that hasn't been extinguished. Prior, they did not have anybody in there because it was too dangerous. And if you notice, you know, what we saw from the aerial view is the roof has collapsed on some of those buildings. So it's very dangerous to put people in underneath there.
Pretty fortunate no one was hurt here.
Very fortunate from the standpoint of the workers, as well as the firefighters, the residents. The other thing is, if you look at where that backhoe was located, you know, and that gas line is right below them.
Yeah.
Once that thing ignites, it's instantaneous heat. Lucky that they were able to get out of there. And what you probably heard was that gas leaking out of there like a jet. Just loud, and then boom, it catches fire.
All right. Mark Neveau, former FEMA coordinator, thanks for the insight. We appreciate it.
And we have the very latest information on this explosion and fire, including a slideshow of some of the raw video that our crews have been out there gathering, as well as video from witnesses in that area. Be sure to go onto our website at ktvu.com.